being condescending. You've been warned, alright? Let's move forward amicably.
Okay, well, check this out, though. First of all, you throwing too many big words at me. Okay, now, because I don't understand them, I'm gonna take them as disrespect. Watch your mouth and help me with the saying.
Okay, see, now you found yourself a nigga. You looking for a nigga? Nigga here now, see?
My mind is so spectacular. Open up your aperture. You don't like the light that I be shining, bitch. You Dracula. Southern draw vernacular. Flip you like a spatula. Knew that I was built to put this word up on my scapula. I've been on this road so long, my tires bald. I don't wanna text and no, I don't wanna call. Came in this shit running, bitch. I don't know how to crawl. We ain't never folding, I'm holding the highest card. Look, okay, grew up running post routes. Now I'm on the cash route. Better call the plumber, that boy spitting like a bass spout. All these bad women in this club, fuck is you mad about? Word to all my estheticians, boy, I'm about to lash out. Straight from St. John's to the east side, jigging since the knee high. Watch the way I put on for my state, nigga, yeehaw. Respecting no Aretha. Crazy how I made it to the league from the bleach eyes. Boy, my shit hair on, black, rich, and bare arms. Smoking on that yogi, this shit stronger than some bare arms. Goku, I'm in rare form, you cannot prepare for him. When I swing, it's like a carnival, this shit ain't fair for him. Brought intellect back to this rap shit. You niggas need chapstick. Shit been dropped for way too long, and I'm the matchstick. You niggas Nickelodeon me, I'm more like Cap Nick. Cap a nigga, throw him in front of me. Party favors on the table, you can pick and choose. I would be lying if I said it, I don't get confused. I'm just a player in the game and I don't pick the rules. Why trouble always seem to find the ones with shit to lose. About to blow like we just lit the fuse. We double dutch into this dough, I get this shit in twos. Push the button, get it started, put that shit in cruise. A little dust up on his heart, I barely get to use. A fool flatters himself, a wise man flatters a fool. Man, I just came to get it started like mechanics with tools. Cause in my hood, if you don't pack a tool, you planning to lose. These young boys deserve Oscars, they be acting a fool. A couple loose screws, but they hammer accurate. Ooh, I know some niggas stuck on drugs and manufacture it too. School of hard knocks, we all got our bachelor's, fool. No cap and gowns, but we all had the master. Party favors on the table, you can pick and choose. I would be lying if I said it, I don't get confused. I'm just a player in the game and I don't pick the rules. Why trouble always seem to find the ones with shit to lose. I'm dumb lit, it's about to be a late night. Fresh rack, shawty, show me what it tastes like. Niggas know me in my city like I'm Wayne Wright. Got them looking up to me and we the same height. Ooh, I got it bad, deep in my bag. Foot on the gas, they cannot last. Swimming with the sharks, bitch, that's a great white. Never stopping, we don't even need no brake lights. Say she don't smoke, but she always smoke with me, yeah. Back with Finny, yeah, back up in the ovaries, yeah. All my ops, they stay running like they over easy, yeah. Even my masseuses can't just get too close to me, yeah. Shout out to Next, soon as the ink dry, we count out the checks, yeah. I never flex, I bought up a business, we bought up a section. I'm at the top of my class, yeah. Y'all never learned from your lessons. Skywalker gave me the force, yeah. Turn this into an obsession, yeah. I couldn't wait on the team, cooking shit up with just me rolling play, yeah. Things never are what they seem, but we know the facts, yeah. Charging that shit to the game, but now I pull up with a battery pack, yeah. The bigger they are, the harder they fall, and we can just leave it at that. I'm dumb lit, it's about to be a late night. Fresh rack, shawty, show me what it tastes like. Niggas know me in my city like I'm Wayne Wright. Got them looking up to me and we the same height. Ooh, I got it bad, deep in my bag. Foot on the gas, they cannot last. Swimming with the sharks, bitch, that's a great white. Never stopping, we don't even need no brake lights. Big bro, why they call you big bro? Every time we hit the bank, we deposit zip codes. Well connected with the streets like we out in Skid Row.
Narrative that you've heard that you have taken the most personally, that you feel is the most incorrect?
I would say probably just that I'm not a playoff performer. Again, I had one experience again that was documented during the bubble that I didn't play my best. I struggled. And that kind of, has floated with me. And there's been other playoff moments where I was playing through injuries that I think people was like, oh, he's not this. Well, you didn't know where I was dealing with at that time. But I think, more than anything, that's when basketball is most important. And when you spoke about the legacy and touched on that, I think that's where legacy is made. And so that's just the most important questions that will be answered for me.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this is really, kind of heightening the mission that you're on this season, because it's clear you've really kind of like internalized it and taken it personally in terms of, I need to change what these words are. Is that accurate?
It is. It is. Not that it's just not that I'm out to, change people's opinion. Like I'm not. How I prepared this season is how I prepare every season. That's just to get better. But I think I can't lie to say there's just a little bit more focus going into this year on, again, how I start and how I finish the year.
What's good, everybody? Welcome to the Pull Up Show. I'm your host, Mr. BJ Matthews, aka B Jizzle. Before we get started, follow us on the YouTube page, the Pull Up Basketball Podcast. Like, share, subscribe. All of our YouTube videos, hit that like button. Y'all come in here, hit that share, subscribe, hit that Cash App, $Slick Rick 1991 son, $Slick Rick 1991 son. There's our Cash App as well. If you guys do not have Cash App, it's no problem. You guys can go to our super stickers and super comments right there in the chat box. Very simple. You guys hit that $ symbol. Y'all can donate to the Pull Up Basketball Podcast at your own discretion in the comments section. That way, you guys can go ahead and donate and show your love to the #1 Clipper podcast out there and your favorite basketball podcast out there as well. But let's get it popping. All right. Narratives are back. Narrative Killer is back. Let me get a sip of water. Because, boy, I'm going to need it today for what I got to say. I'm going to need it today for what I got to say. I'm going to need my voice to be 100% clear, loud. Hope that y'all can hear me through the mic. Hope that y'all are sitting back, y'all enjoying. Hope that you guys get a cold drink and, what I'm saying, watch this into its entirety, because we got a lot to talk about, man. Welcome to the Narrative Killer series, Chronicles. You know what I'm saying? This is going to be starring no other than Mr. Paul George. I just did my first 2 narrative videos with Kawhi Leonard and Russell Westbrook, so go check out those 2. I did, within the last couple of weeks. But this one's going to be on PG, Paul George, as y'all saw right there in the clip. For the people that are just coming in, I'm going to play that clip a little bit later. But like I told y'all, man, this is the narrative series is very, really exciting for me, because I get a chance to expose a lot of different things that's been said about some of these players and, situations and teams I'm going to come to later. They're just, what they are, like I say, narratives. And I think y'all know how I feel about narratives. They're the worst thing that's ever happened to the NBA. Narratives are what destroy players' careers. Narratives are what the fan base, the casual fans go with, because they don't want to sit and have time to actually research and find out for themselves. You're just going to take the bigger story. Narratives are, to me, just flat out bullshit. That's what narratives mean to me. So I think it's an appropriate time for me to expound and expose these things, because it's about time that somebody calls this shit out. Because as I sit back and I just hear some of the nonsense people be saying, I shake my head. I just be like, okay, somebody gotta say something. So why not be me? So y'all sit back and enjoy the show. Y'all hit that like button. So let's get into this episode right here. I'm take my time with that. But let's talk about it, man. Paul George, right now, who's the I said almost point guard. I said the small forward for the Philadelphia 76ers. Got traded away from the Los Angeles Clippers, left this offseason, which we're going to talk about as well. But there's a lot of narratives who are surrounding Paul George that it's only appropriate that I knock them down one by one. So if we go into just Paul George's career real quick, then we're gonna, go into like the narratives and get into the fun stuff. All right, so if we go into just Paul George's career, you know, very, very quickly, very, very swiftly. Right here, Atlanta basketball. Y'all can go here if y'all want to see any of your favorite players or, you know, guys that, you know, want to see their careers and stuff like that. You know, this is Paul George's career real quickly in a nutshell. 15 years in the NBA, 11 playoff appearances, no NBA titles, and a 9-time All-Star. All right, played with 4 teams: Indiana Pacers, OKC Thunder, Los Angeles Clippers, and now with the Philadelphia 76ers. A little bit more detail right here in the profile. You guys see 9-time All-Star. You guys can see the years that he played in the All-Star game. His awards that he accomplished: Most Improved Player, Steals Leader, All-NBA First Team once, All-NBA Third Team 5 times, All the NBA Defensive First Team twice, All-NBA Defensive Second Team twice, All-NBA Rookie Team Second Team once, right? You got all those different awards that he's accomplished in his 15-year career, right? And then if you guys go down a little bit deeper, y'all go into the statistics and the stats, you know, breaking it down the season and then the playoffs. You know, very, very, you know, detailed information that y'all can find. It's actually pretty easy to actually understand. Y'all can see right there all his stats right here in the regular season, you know, games played, points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks. Very, very, you know, simple for even a casual fan to understand, right? As y'all come there, smash that like button. We're doing player narrative breakdowns. We're talking about Paul George. If y'all did not see my first 2 videos on Kawhi Leonard and Russell Westbrook, go check those videos out as well. I need to actually put this in a playlist so it's easy for y'all to get access to everything, and it's just right there on a one click. But as y'all can see, you know, these are his, you know, statistics. This is his stats, the games played, all that good stuff, right? Here comes the playoffs right here, right? Stats in the playoffs and in his career. Right, very easy to understand. So we're gonna get to all the good stuff. But I just wanted to break down, you know, certain simple things about Paul George's career in a nutshell and his, you know, basic player profile. So that's enough of that, though. So we gonna knock down each narrative one by one. So we're gonna start off with, first off, he's not a playoff performer. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, I played the video. You know, I'm gonna play it again for the people that just coming in here. I'm gonna let y'all kind of, you know, hear what he had to say. For the people that, you know, did not see the first video, we're gonna go ahead and play it again. You know, with the fine Mrs. Taylor Rooks. I'm going to, you know, put that out here that she is one of my favorite journalists. Not to even, you know, get off kilter, but she's one of my favorite ones because she's able to relate to the players in ways that I think a lot of other, you know, analysts and, you know, reporters just don't do. They don't have the itch. And even me going through an experience right now with the Clippers, you see some of these players, you could just tell they relate to certain, you know, reporters and others. You know, some of them ask the same dry ass questions over and over and over. No versatility, no flavor, no nothing. And the players just, you know, answer them generically because that's what they have to do, just be professional. But they really want to be asked those questions that really are personable questions. And when you have a person across the, you know, seat from you that looks just like you know what I'm saying, male, female, you know, and actually is very polished in how they speak, right? You can see Mrs. Taylor Rooks. She's always pretty classy with what she, you know, how she speaks and how she carries herself. Very beautiful at the end of the day as well. But I remember this interview just last summer or last, you know, year before the season started. The preseason was in Hawaii, and you know, Taylor Rooks really got into Paul George's, you know, headspace to really understand what he was, you know, his thinking on his mind. And we know PG. One of the things about him, and that's what I'm also going to as well. He is the type of person that he is an open book. He will allow people to tell, you know, see how he feels, and he will be open about what he says. You know, that's part of the reason he has a podcast as well. But if you really want to have the opportunity to, you know about, you know, PG's, you know, backstory and stuff like that, he'll tell you. He's an open book. Even me being around him a little bit last year, like he will talk to everybody. Really cool guy off the, you know, court. Parents are real cool. People around him real cool. He just, you know, same thing with his game. Very smooth, calm, collected. You know, laid back, just like who he is as a person. So I liked how Taylor Rooks really put these questions together because it was a great interview. So I want y'all to hear again for the people that just didn't come in before talking about Paul George's biggest narrative and what he thinks it is. So I'm gonna let y'all hear from him, and then we're gonna go right back to it. All right, here we go.
What is the one noise or one narrative that you've heard that you've taken the most personally, that you feel is the most incorrect?
I would say probably just that I'm not a playoff performer. Again, I had one experience again that was documented during the bubble that I didn't play my best. I struggled. And that kind of, has floated with me. And there's been other playoff moments where I was playing through injuries that I think people was like, oh, he's not this. Well, you didn't know where I was dealing with at that time. But I think, more than anything, that's when basketball is most important. And when you spoke about the legacy and touched on that, I think that's where legacy is made. And so that's just the most important questions that will be answered for me.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this is really, kind of heightening the mission that you're on this season. Because it's clear you've really kind of like internalized it and taken it personally in terms of, I need to change what these words are. Is that accurate?
It is. It is. Not that it's just not that I'm out to, change people's opinion. Like I'm not. How I prepared this season is how I prepare every season. That's just to get better. But I think I can't lie to say there's just a little bit more focus going into this year on, again, how I start and how I finish.
All right, so we're gonna stop it right there. Make sure y'all smash the like button. Y'all come here as well. We're talking about media narratives destroyed. We're on the Paul George series. We're on episode number 3. If y'all did not check them out, my last couple episodes of Russell Westbrook and Kawhi Leonard, go check those out right now. All right, but there is the sequence. There's a little skip right there where they had this discussion, and this is a narrative I want to kind of touch on. Taylor Rooks, the beautiful Taylor Rooks, asked the question. Very, very way she asked the question was, a way that, wasn't just, oh, what's your biggest narrative? She basically put a little bit of a twist on it and said, what is the biggest misconception about you that is, that you can actually, you want to tell the audience. And see, when you say it like that, you see how he actually took time to, ask to, respond. My thing I've learned with reporting is if you take time to ask a player a question, I mean a real question that's not dumb, that they can actually answer and it's actually clear and understandable, not long drawn out and long-winded and dumb and all over the place. If you ask a basic question but you have some a way for them to think, they're going to give you a response back that you're looking for. And depending on the person you deal with is going to be able to, give you something that's even more interesting for the audience to lead back with. That's why I learned with reporting. But PG's biggest thing was that he's not a playoff performer. And we're going to go into, his career in the playoffs because he's been to the playoffs 11 times. He's pretty much made every single year in the playoffs outside of the ones he's been hurt. So you can really say he's been in the playoffs every single year of his career. But nobody talks about that either. They talk about, James Harden making to the playoffs every single year of his career, but Paul George has done the same thing. Every single year he's made the playoffs. He's never been out the playoffs other than the years he's been out with injury. Right? So that's what I want to first highlight. But let's just go into, the thing about, him saying he's not a playoff performer. Because I got the numbers, I got the stats, I got the, situations and things of that nature where we could actually, break this down. So when we look at Paul George's playoff career, he's played 114 games, 21 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, and 4.1 assists. Those are the basic statistics that I want to bring up. Those aren't the, everything that's in the, totality. That just is your basic numbers for, people to understand. But like I said, he's been to the postseason every single year of his career outside the years he's been out with injury, whether it had been the leg injury with Indiana, whether it had been the multiple years he's with the Clippers and, either Kawhi's been out or he comes back later in the season, this, that, and the other. So he's missed the playoffs 3 years of his career. And 2 of those years you could say it's been because of those injuries. In 2022, where Kawhi and PG both missed time. And then literally in 2023, they made the playoffs, but he didn't participate because of the leg injury I'm going to talk about as well, where Lou Dort stuck his foot out and, hyperextended Paul George's knee. Those are the only playoffs he's even missed. So you really could say he's never missed the playoffs in his whole entire career, right? But you never hear nobody say that about him. They just say that, he doesn't show up in the playoffs and all this other shit. But I want to, put that out there. He's been to the playoffs every single year, averaging 21 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, 4.1 assists. And this is the years that he's been in the postseason. Now, this is the thing that people kind of go into. They say that, well, PG ain't the same. He's been in Indiana. And, he's not the same player. And he's not this, that, and the other, which I'm going to go into that as well. But when you look at his playoff performances, the first couple seasons in the playoffs, he was pretty much playing, second fiddle to Danny Granger. He wasn't the guy on the team yet. Danny Granger was still the guy. I remember Danny Granger, who was a small forward of the Indiana Pacers at the time. They had that team, with Roy Hibbert and David West and those guys. PG was still a pup. He didn't really even have no real glimpse of the team yet. But he was, coming into his own. Then the third season where he won Most Improved Player, and Danny Granger got sidelined with that injury, which was kind of a blessing in disguise to allow PG to come through the door. He showed out, right? As y'all can see right here in this third line, he averaged 19 points per game, 7.4 rebounds, 5.1 assists as well. Now, this is the year actually they made to the conference finals against the Miami Heat. So I want to show y'all what happened in this third season with Paul George with the Indiana Pacers and how he came to his coming out party. So y'all enjoy.
Here comes George, got the step and stuffs one move and counts in the foul. He beat LeBron James with that quick step. A sensational move by Paul George.
We are seeing a superstar in the making here with Paul George. Gets the step on LeBron James. The Birdman is just a little bit late, rotating over, and click, click. Birdman, this is your Kodak moment.
All right. So in 2013 playoffs was the interest of Paul George in PG-24, not PG-13 yet, PG-24, where I remember this series like it was yesterday. The Indiana Pacers and, the Miami Heat, this was game 2. And the Indiana Pacers, led by Paul George and Roy Hibbert, come into Miami and win a game against the Big Three. Now, remember, LeBron, Wade, and Bosh, this was after they won their first championship. This is the year right after they won their first championship. So they were already established as the best team in the Eastern Conference and pretty much the entire league. And Paul George at the time was a guy coming in just into his own. No one knew who he was on that level until he came into this situation. And y'all can see right there, that's Paul George and LeBron James dapping up each other. I remember I was talking to my big cousin about this when it happened. And he was telling me that, this guy in Indiana, number 24, did you see that game? I'm like, you saw talking about Paul George? And I'm like, yeah, he went Glock for Glock with the Miami Heat that night. This was after game 2. And, you watched that game. If you was actually there, you saw that was, a guy that was going to be a star in this league, a superstar. Right? And this was in the postseason. It was in the playoffs. Unfortunately, they lost in 7 games in that year. They lost in 7 games in that year. And, this was, Paul George's coming out party. Right? Now, the year after that, Paul George, I want y'all to hear one of the key players on the team that actually spoke about what it was like facing Paul George in the second year against the Miami Heat, because this is all in the playoffs. I want y'all to tell me. I want y'all to, listen to what I'm, letting people actually read, because the narrative is that this guy doesn't show up into the playoffs. The guy doesn't play well in the playoffs. He always comes up short. He chokes, all this other shit. The regular casual talk. So, like I tell y'all, I like to hear the players' point of view, because they actually can tell you who actually are there what's going on, because I'm not going to go and listen to a guy or a person that doesn't have any experience in the field over somebody that's been in the field for over 15, 20 years. So what I'm going to do is allow y'all to, hear from Dwayne Wade at the time, who was one of the part of the guys on the Big Three that had to face Paul George and what he had to say, and, him coming out. So here we go.
I'm just going back real quick and thinking about this. So I remember when we played y'all in the playoffs. First year we played y'all in the second round, and I'm guarding you. You guarding me, right? So that was a matchup. The next year, I'm guarding you in the beginning. And then I remember when you really started taking that jump because Brian looked at me one game, was like, hey, like, he killing you right now. Like, you too.
I want to ask you.
All right, so as y'all come in there, smash that like button. So we got past the first year, right, against the Miami Heat. They get to the conference finals. They lose in 7 games. Indiana Pacers. Miami Heat goes in and they go and face the San Antonio Spurs, and they win back to back. This was in 2013. The following year, after PG did what he did and was coming out making noise, the second year they got to the conference finals again. They lost to the Miami Heat in 6 games. Now, also something I want to mention too. Notice how I keep saying the conference finals. He knows how I keep saying the conference finals, not the first round, not the second round, not the play-in tournament. The conference finals. The Indiana Pacers made the playoffs with Paul George leading them. Yes, I said Paul George leading. So this was 2014 Eastern Conference Finals. As y'all can see, y'all can read. It says Paul George averaged 24 points per game, 5.3 rebounds, and 4.0 assists in 6 games against the Pacers. Now, mind you, what Dwayne Wade said out of his mouth, not my mouth, not the coach's mouth, not LeBron's mouth, not Chris Bosh's mouth, not Paul George's mouth, not Kawhi Leonard's mouth, not Ty Lue's mouth, not anyone else's mouth, but the guy that had to deal with him game in and game out, which I'm going to talk about a little bit as well. I'm sick and tired of these fans coming around talking about this player ain't this player ain't that, when they don't have to deal with him. How could you sit up there and say this player lost this, lost that, when you're not having to deal with them night in and night out? That's something that the players can only tell you. So what Dwayne Wade was saying right there, the first year, he was dealing with a younger Paul George who was not in that position. So they obviously had, they were able to somewhat at least be able to contain him. And even then, after y'all saw that dunk over Bird, man, they still, he still had problems with, Paul George, and, that team still had to adjust to him. Because he was a 6'8" wing that can score at all 3 facets and was just, at that time, was an athletic freak. But then the second year, he gets even more confident, and he says to himself he belongs, and he gets that respect from his peers. Okay, now you're dealing with a different animal. And the second year against the Miami Heat, Paul George was the best player in that whole series. Better than LeBron, better than Dwayne Wade, better than Chris Bosh. He led the whole playoffs in scoring in that series. He played both ways of the basketball. He scored the ball and guarded Dwayne Wade and LeBron James on the other side, which I want to bring that up as well with two-way players. See, people get all this credit for playing one way of the ball and scoring 25 to 30 points, and they can relax and chill on the other side. Where I come from, the era that you're not a basketball player unless you play both ends. But this era, they believe if you score 25, 30 points and you can just relax and chill on the other side and get burned on the other side of the court, that's called a real basketball player. But yeah, they still continue to get put out in the playoffs. They never make it far. Guys like, Donovan Mitchell, who I love, never made it past the, second round. You got John Moran, who ain't never passed the second round. You got, who was the high offensive guard? De'Aaron Fox never made it out the first round. I'm just really trying to put things in perspective. Who's just a primary offensive guard? Well, that's pretty much the main offensive guys I can think of. But the defensive guards I can think of who play both ways throughout history: Jordans, the Kobes, the Kawhis, the Paul Georges, the Anthony Edwards, who just made it past the second round last year. Guys like that, two-way players who play both ways have a better chance of leading their teams deep into the playoffs or winning a championship. But he's one of the best elite two-way players even to this day. But like I said to this series, he played both ways. He was the best offensive player scoring the ball, and he was one of the better defenders in the whole series. And this is all in the postseason. You look at the numbers he put up, they were star numbers. Right? So I'm just putting out this niche, not a playoff performer when it actually came along. Because when he was in Indiana, He was making the playoffs every year, and he was pretty much performing at a star level. Now, it wasn't enough to win a championship or, whatever, but look who he was going up against. Going up against the Miami Heat every single time. And had he not had to deal with the Miami Heat, you asking that he probably would have made it to the NBA Finals, and we have a different story. You can't have this argument with James Harden saying that, look who he faced, the Golden State Warriors. Well, I'm going to talk about James Harden in the next video because there's some narratives about him that need to be destroyed as well. But you can't give Harden a pass and say that he faced the Golden State Warriors 2 out of the team 2 years that he had to, go up against them 2-3 years, and not give Paul George that same pass. He had to go against the same Miami Heat prime team in their prime 2 years in a row, and he still pushed them to the brink. You gotta remember, this was when LeBron was in his prime, his peak. This was the best version of LeBron. This was the end of Dwayne Wade's prime. This was the beginning of Chris Bosh's prime. He's literally facing a super team. The first real ever super team was what he had to deal with, being surrounded by guys like George Hill, Lance Stevenson, David West, Roy Hibbert. These guys are good role players, but they ain't no stars. You don't know who these guys are. I do because I know the game at a high level, but for the casual fan, they don't know who these dudes are. Come on, man. Like Imam Muhammad, like these guys, you guys didn't know who these dudes were. Tyler Hansborough, like seriously? These are the guys that y'all look at and say he's supposed to beat a prime Miami Heat team, which he really had the opportunity to do. But a few mishaps happened, a few mental mistakes happened, within the team that, cost them that series. So I'm just asking everyone to be on the same playing field. But that's what he was doing in Indiana. Now, he went to, after a few years with the Pacers, he had that leg injury. I'm going to talk about that in a minute as well. But, had his few years in Indiana, him in the playoffs where he did produce, good numbers as well. But, couldn't ever get over the hump. After that season against the Miami Heat, 27 points per game and then 28 points the year after that, 2016, 2017. Facing the Toronto Raptors and the Cleveland Cavaliers again against LeBron his last year. Now, if you go back and look at those rosters that they had, again, and this is something else I want to put out there too. Can y'all tell me who Paul George's best teammate was? I want somebody to put it into the chat. Because, see, I keep hearing all this help talk. People want to talk about who has help and who doesn't have help. I want to ask what was Paul George's help? Who was his best player in Indiana? Who was his best player he had on his team? Right? Who was the guy? Who was his second running mate in Indiana? Who was the guy that because we can talk about dynamic duos. LeBron had Dwayne Wade, right? You had, Kobe Bryant had Pau Gasol. You had Kevin Durant had Russell Westbrook. You had, and I'm just talking about around this time. You had Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. You had, Zach Randolph and Marc Gasol. You had, and Mike Conley at the time, the Grindhouse Grizzlies. You had, who else am I thinking of in 2015, 2016? You had you guys know the dynamic duos I'm talking about. Y'all had all these dynamic duos in the league. Who was Paul George's second running mate in Indiana? Who did he have? Roy Hibbert, David West. David West was a good player. He made the All-Star team. But again, I'm talking about guys that you guys remember in the history books. David West is not going to go down as no Hall of Famer. All the other guys that I name have Hall of Famer teammates beside him. This guy literally had a team with a bunch of role players who knew their roles, which I think, fit around Paul George very well. But I'm just telling y'all, put in perspective, I'm just asking what is his biggest help is out, not just Indiana, but his entire career. OKC, you had Russell Westbrook. We got to go in there as well. They spent 2 years together. And a lot of y'all make fun of Russell. I had to make a video about Russell Westbrook's narratives. A lot of y'all make fun of Russell Westbrook. Even in his MVP years, saying he turns the ball over too much. He takes stupid shots and believing in all the nonsense. So is that his best teammate? That's what his best teammate was. How about with the Clippers? I mean, Kawhi Leonard, of course, would be the best teammate, but the problem is that Kawhi Leonard has been hurt 4 of the last 5 postseasons. So shit, it's almost by default. You got to even cancel him out because he can't even be there to help pull up the load that he signed the contract for. So there ain't no good to say that because he can't even be on the court and enjoy the riches of having the great Kawhi Leonard beside him because he can't stay on the court in the most important moments. So I don't think people really put into perspective when they bring up the word help and this player needs help. LeBron needs all this help. You know, this player needs all this help. They just say it out the blue when they start having, you know, a little bit of a hard time and they start going down the list and look at all the teams that they done had. I ask you to do the same thing with Paul George. Look at the teams that he had throughout his entire career and you tell me where's he full with all this talent. I said this before and I'm going to say it again. People raise the bar for Paul George because of how gifted he is. I'm going to say it again. People raise the bar for Paul George because of how gifted he is. I've watched time after time again, player after player again, seen it with my own eyes up close. These niggas go 5 for 20 from the field throughout the season, have bad playoff performances. Kyrie Irving can average 15 points in the playoffs. Luka Doncic can go motherfucking 30% from the field, and they'll call that cooking because he shot 1,000,000 times and he ain't got to play no defense. He can just enjoy just scoring the ball and have everybody else pick up his load. But it's a whole different animal when you have to ask to be the best offensive player and the best defensive player on your team. That is tiring. And I've told people this before. If you're a great offensive player and defensive player, you have the right to be a little bit inefficient because of the energy you have to expound. But you got guys who are inefficient even playing one side of the ball. That is mind-boggling to me. How are you inefficient when you don't even have to exert that much work or low energy? You just are getting paid to put the ball in the basket, shoot shots, and shot jack. And get screens set for you, plays called for you. You get to be protected on the defensive side of the ball. Hidden. Oh, his defensive rating is high. Yeah, because he's guarding a weak link on the other side. It's called coaching scheming. It's smart, but don't come in my face with that inefficiency bullshit. Because at the end of the day, efficiency only really mattered to me when LeBron James came to the scene. And I don't want to put LeBron too much into this, but a lot of stuff and narratives that are being built by these media people who can't relate to the game other than looking at stats like a stat geek because they never played. They go straight to the numbers and say, oh, this guy shot 48% from the field. Oh, he's not that efficient. He ain't this, he ain't that. But before LeBron really came around, you didn't really hear nobody talk about no efficiency. They say, could you put the ball in the basket? How many points did you score? Did you affect the game on the defensive side of the ball? The moments of did you do all that? With the eye test, they weren't worried about the efficiency. Now it's cool to have it. Oh, he shot, 50% from the field or 48% from the field, scoring 25, 30 points per game. That's cool. But how many players can you name who are two-way have done that? I can only name 2 that I've seen in history. That's Michael Jordan and Kawhi Leonard. Name the other two-way players that are able to do that. In NBA history in your lifetime, go ahead and tell me. Tell me the two-way player that's able to give me who's a wing, not a post guy. Don't give me no post shit. A wing who can give you 25, 30 points per game whilst locking up on the other side, be a defensive player. You can't do it. Don't raise the bar for somebody else and lower for the other guy. Or if you're going to do that, just admit that he's a better player than the person that you're, referring to. You can't have it both ways. You can't call this guy trash, but yet you're putting more expectation on him. And I don't have a problem with that if you had it on an even playing field for everybody else. You try to go out there and go and score 25, 30 points and shoot 48 to 50% from the field while, guarding the best player on the other side. See how you feel after the game and do it for the entire season. Please be my guest. But let's go into the OKC Thunder. I look like I got a little bit off track. With OKC, you got. I told y'all I think this was the best Paul George, not the Indiana Paul George, because he was all NBA first team, all the NBA defensive first team this year. That means he was the best offensive player and the best defensive player in the league. That's what that means. In the postseason, no one was saying nothing about Paul George against OKC. They had that quote saying playoff P, but the first year against against Utah, they lost. They underperformed in that series. Paul George had 5 points in that game 6 performance. He played well throughout the entire series, but he had a bad performance in game 6, and that put a little bit of a monkey wrench on him as well. But it didn't really mess his career up. The year after that, he faced the Portland Trail Blazers. He averaged 28 points per game that year, 8.6 assists, 8.6 rebounds, 3.6 assists, and 1.4 steals, right? And remember, like he said in the video, injuries, he was dealing with 2 bum shoulders where he needed to have surgery the next year. See, if you're going to use the injury excuse for other players, you can't use it. You can't use it and hold it back for somebody else because you don't like them. He had to have surgery the year after in OKC, and he dropped 28 points per game that year. Right, so that's what he was referring to, that he was dealing with injury. See, the thing about the people got to understand the difference between an excuse and an explanation. If you ask me a question and I ask you with the honesty and I give you the explanation for it, it's not an excuse. The excuse is simply something that you try to stretch and use it if it's not true. But if it's the truth and you ask me that question and I'm explaining to you what happened, that's not an excuse. That's what happened efficiently. But I digress. In OKC, he had his performances there. But the real test was when he actually came in with the Clippers, where he started having this narrative he wasn't a playoff performer. Right? The first 3 years, all 3 years in the playoffs, 20 points per game, 26 points per game in 2020-21, and then 19 points per game last year. Now, again, the bubble situation we had where he was not, his best self, you can use that as, something where, as if he's not a playoff performer. But the circumstances I've told people before in the bubble was not going to carry on because, as he mentioned, he was not in his right mind in the bubble. Regardless if you want to use that as an excuse or not, I have many sources that tell me the bubble was bullshit. And it wasn't just him. It was the entire Clippers team. You guys got to remember, it wasn't just the Paul George Clippers. It was the Los Angeles Clippers. Lou Will didn't want to be there. Montrezl Harrell didn't want to be there. Kawhi Leonard didn't want to be there. Paul George didn't want to be. None of those guys wanted to be there. The same game Paul George choked away, Kawhi Leonard choked away in Game 7 as well. I think he had like 14 points in that Game 7. Is Kawhi Leonard, is he a choker? No, he had a moment where he didn't perform at his best, and it was in a situation where he wasn't the most conducive. It wasn't just one guy saying, I didn't want to be there. He was the only one vocal enough to say it, but that whole team didn't want to be there. The Clippers literally was on the brink of leaving, especially with the whole Black Lives Matter shit and all that going on. They did not want to be there. Right? So you go into that series and you actually are able to, get to the second round, but y'all lose that first year. And that's where the Paul George, he's not a playoff performer, began. But none of that stuff was going on in Indiana or OKC. But that's how a narrative can get stretched. The second year in 2021, one of his better playoff performances, he averaged 26 points per game, led the whole playoffs in points, rebounds, and assists. That was the playoff run that he helped take the Clippers to the playoffs. And yes, people are going to say Kawhi Leonard had that game in Dallas. Shout out to my man Adam. But at the end of the day, that was still Paul George's playoff run. That wasn't Kawhi Leonard's because he didn't finish. We can't take credit for one guy and give it to the other guy and try to water it down because you want to create a narrative. The bottom line is that Kawhi Leonard did not finish the playoff run, and he had the series against Dallas. Yeah, he was the best player. The series against Utah, Paul George was the best player, and then the series against Phoenix, Paul George was the best player, even though they lost that series. He didn't just miss Kawhi Leonard against the Phoenix Suns. He was missing Serge Ibaka, and Ivica Zubac missed the last 2 games. Marcus Morris was dealing with injuries. It wasn't just Kawhi. Y'all forget. And I go back to my question again. Who has been Paul George's best teammate? Because the one that was supposed to be has been hurt. The one that's right now is hurt in Joel Embiid. Right? But I want to expound that injury real quick, or expound that narrative that he's not a playoff performer. The bottom line is that Paul George is going to come down as a Hall of Famer. And I've already said it before, people raise the bar for him and his expectations, they lower for everybody else. That he doesn't seem to always, come through in the playoffs. You want to talk about last year, as I said before, again, when you have an injury to Kawhi and the defensive schemes, I think personally, my personal opinion is that I think PG got tired of carrying the fort when his second running mate has not been there. I mean, how many times is he supposed to carry something that he wasn't signed up to carry? And if you're going to ask him to do that, you got to pay him the same amount of money. You can't. This is the thing. I don't think it would have been as bad if he had been, okay, if you're going to keep asking me year after year to be the number one option because Kawhi can't be on the court healthy in the playoffs, then you got to at least compensate me the same amount. Don't ask me to do something and then try to, lowball me. Because then at some point it's like, yo, I can't put up with. So I do think mentally his mindset was like, okay, fuck it. Not to say that he quit, but I don't think he. I think it was a long-standing relationship that was going the other way. And I think that the reason why I just mentioned, you can't keep asking me to carry the load and carry the burden. And I'm speaking from a player's standpoint. And my second running mate, who I signed up to be, is not here. You can't keep asking me to do that and not compensate me the same way. That's only the same thing in any type of work field. If I'm doing the majority of the lifting, you got to compensate me as such. Right? But let's go into the next one. This is the fun one. He is mentally weak. As y'all come there, smash that like button. Say, I never really asked people this question, what they keep talking about with this whole mental thing. I can only assume. But you hear Frazier talking about he doesn't have the mental, he's not mentally, like, I'm like asking, what do you mean he doesn't have the mental? Again, are you asking him to raise the bar for him and do things that he's not signed up to do, like continuously do the same thing over and over? Like where do y'all rank Paul George in the league? That's my question. When I asked this question because it's like you ask him to do these superstar things, but then he said he's not a superstar player. So that's why I ask people, where do you even rank him like right now in the league? Because I would respect it more if you said to yourself and said to me, like, okay, this guy is one of the best players in the league when healthy, but I expect him to do this. He didn't reach my expectations. It's not like you're lowering your expectations and say, well, I don't expect PG to do that. And that the level that he's playing at is where I expect him to. You're saying he's supposed to be playing at a higher level. So that means you think he's a better player than what you're, admitting he is. Then they'll switch it up and say, well, he's the most talented. No, don't try to mince words. Talent, all these players are talented. That ain't telling me nothing. Tell me what it really is. Is he one of the better players that can do everything on the court? And you hold him to that standard? Cool. Say that. But don't say he's that and then say that he's not that good or he's average or he's just don't do that. That's some hate shit. That's some hater type shit. Saying stuff like he ain't the same defender that he used to be, or he's not a elite defender. Let me show y'all something real quick as y'all come here, because again, this is the same dumbass narratives that keep putting brought up that he's just somehow just fluffed so much defensively. Let me show y'all something. So again, there's no real way to actually know how good a defensive player somebody is unless, one, you look at their numbers, and two, you get a chance to play up against them. Obviously, we ain't gonna get a chance to play up against Paul George because we're not in the NBA. All right, so like I said, you really don't know how good a defensive player or somebody, how they fell off, unless you really got a chance to play up against them. Well, we ain't gonna be able to have that luxury. But what we can do is look at some of the defensive numbers, you know, as of recent. I mean, if you look at even with us with the Clippers the last couple of seasons, last year he led our team in steals last year at 1.5. And I told people this a million times. There was many games that he was guarding our best player. He played the most games last year at 74 games out of, you know, anybody of our big four or big three. I don't even want to call it a big three. Just, you know, with, you know, our main guys, you know, Kawhi, Harden, and Westbrook. He played the most games. And he's one of our better two-way players. 1.5 steals per game. He led our team in steals. This year, he's leading the Sixers in steals at 2.1. Now, this is coming even with him on minutes restrictions. He's averaging 29 minutes per game. He's been in and out the lineup. He comes back. He's in there for like 25, 30 minutes. He's not getting consistent flow. So he's not even really being judged fairly with the minutes he's playing right now with Philly. He's played pretty much half the year so far. And the games he's played, he's been like pretty much 3-4 of them has been minutes restrictions. So he's really only played like about maybe 3-4 games fully out of what is the Sixers? 5 and 15. 20 games. He's played only 5 of them. But when he's in the game and he's getting, you know, the time he's getting, he's averaging 2.1 steals. When I watched him play against the New York Knicks in the first quarter against Jalen Brunson, he shut him down and made it inefficient for him. When I watched him last year against Karl-Anthony Towns, made him inefficient in Minnesota. When I saw him guard DeMar DeRozan when he was with the Bulls. When I saw him play against Tyler Hero. When he wants to lock you up, he still has that two-way ability. Now, if the smarter thing for somebody to say is that, okay, because of his age and because of his responsibility, he's not going to want to do it every single possession all game. That's a smart thing to say, but to say that he's just dropped defensively so much and he can't guard this, that, and the other, that's all bullshit. He can still guard positions 1 through 3, sometimes even 4. He still has lateral quickness, even though with that nasty leg injury, which we're going to bring up next. He still can do pretty much as he wants to do as he was, you know, in his earlier years. It's just more dissective. He's not jumping and dunking on everybody like he was with the Indiana Pacers. He's not doing that. He's playing the game more methodically. He had to change his game up because of his loss of athleticism, not his loss of defense, his loss of athleticism. I think people need to know the difference. Just because I lose athleticism doesn't mean I'm going to lose a lot defensively. He still has quick hands. He still has long arms. He still has a long wingspan where he can guard up on defenders and make it tough for them. So I always tell people, you can't sit here and say this guy lost this, that, and the other defensively without explaining to me what that really even means. Because to say that he lost defensively and not explain, I'm going to ask you, did his steals drop? Did his effectiveness guarding the ball drop? Did his offense, his ability to guard different positions, like what dropped so much where he can't be the guy being the number one defender on the team certain nights? Now, there are certain games that you may ask a player like Terrence Mann or a player like now Caleb Martin, or at the time you had Lance Stevenson in Indiana. You had, Andre Roberson in Oklahoma City. Like, defenders who are just meant to do one thing. And this is something else I want to put out there too. Stop putting one-way players over two-way players. Stop putting Terrence Mann saying that he's such a great defender over another player who was asked to do more things. If I'm asked to just do one job, and that's just to play defense and not exert as much energy, that don't make me a prime defender over somebody else who has to guard the best players at nights and be the best offensive player. If you ask me to just do one job, if you ask Paul George just to play defense, he'll be a better defender than Terrence Mann. If you ask Kawhi Leonard to play just defense, he'll be a better defender than Terrence Mann. But they're asked to score the ball as well. That's energy. This ain't NBA 2K where I can only just have the energy up into 100 and nobody gets tired. Being a two-way player is the hardest thing in basketball. I had somebody come to me the other day. Norman Powell is better than a second option, better than Paul George. I hung up the phone. I'm not listening to idiotic talk. I love Norman Powell. But he has no all-star appearances, no defensive all teams, no all-NBA teams, none of that. He is just coming into his own this year. He was going to probably make his first all-star appearance in, 11 seasons. But he's a one-way player himself. If you ask him to guard the best players on the defensive end, I'm talking about coach go to him and say, you lock him up, a star player. Let's see if he's still able to score that 23 points per game at 50% clip. I ask people just to stop being idiotic. Now, let me go into this final one. He's mentally weak. As y'all come there, smash that like button. Again, I have to ask people, what is this he's mentally weak thing? Where does this come from? Because I didn't hear none of this before the bubble happened. Now, if you want to use the bubble as something to say he's mentally weak, okay, you got to call the Clippers mentally weak then. You got to call Kawhi Leonard mentally weak. You got to call Lou Williams mentally weak. You got to call Patrick Beverley mentally weak. You got to call Montrezl Harrell mentally weak. You got to call the Clippers mentally weak as a whole because they all choked. It's just that Paul George just gets more documented because of him actually saying it out loud. Okay, you didn't like him saying that? Cool. It doesn't change the fact that they all fumbled and crumbled when the circumstances were not in their favor. Again, the Clippers were meant to win that championship, and they lost to the Denver Nuggets team that had no business beating them in that playoff run. They were up 3-1. That was showing you the Clippers were simply beating them off of simply just being not even being in their right mind. Denver had nothing to lose. Nobody knew who Denver was. Right. So is it that? Is it the fact that people, I know what it is. Again, people saw Paul George in Indiana and said, well, he don't play the same way. Well, that just shows that he's mentally. Why does he go to the basket more? Why does he dunk on, guy after guy? Like I said before, Paul George in Indiana, bro, he was a fierce player. Would dunk on literally anybody in his way. Didn't duck any smoke. Went at any and everybody. I said it before. He literally went at LeBron James in his peak, not his prime, his peak. Didn't give a damn about this whole LeBron was the best player. He went at him, Glock for Glock, with a less talented team. 2 years in a row, second year against the Miami Heat, was the best player in that series. No one says this. Why does nobody call this out? How is it so easy for somebody to sit up and lie and just people just take it. Did you not know that did you not know that, or did you just know it? You just didn't want to say it out loud. That dude was literally a fierce player in Indiana. Y'all seen the highlights. He's going at the rim every single time. He ain't pulling up. I ain't seen not one jump shot yet. But we're going to keep it right here real quick. Y'all see that USA jersey right there? In 2014, something interesting happened. 2014, something interesting happened. As y'all come here and smash that like button, we're about to finish up right here. In 2014, something interesting happened. There was a play that y'all remember where PG was on the Olympic team in Vegas. Scrimmage wasn't even an actual game; it was a scrimmage. Back in 2014, this was after the year he made to the conference finals for a second consecutive time, and he was on the brink of being one of the best players in the league. Y'all see right here, James Harden drives to the basket. Paul George, right there, 29. Like his foot got tangled up. I almost don't want to continue the video because it's so gruesome, but we're going to see it. Because I want to actually show people with their eyes what happened. Why is he so mentally weak? Why is he so... Okay. Gets the rebound. Let me take this out real quick. Gets back on defense, right? After turning the ball over, gets back on defense. Tries to go for the block on James Harden. Harmless play. Looks like a regular play. But after this play right here, if y'all have a sensitive stomach, just turn away. His leg in a full head sprint gets caught. Right here, y'all can see his leg right here. It ain't going to have nowhere to go because it's locked up behind. Makes a hard play to try to get back on defense, which I mentioned before. A lot of players don't like to play defense. And it buckles and crashes, and it goes, the leg goes a certain way it ain't supposed to go. And there's nothing he can do but go down on the floor. And y'all see the reaction for people on the bench. Looking away. Coach looking away. Klay Thompson looking away. Kevin Durant looking away. Russell Westbrook. You got Tom Thibodeau right there. You have a coach rushing against. There, literally, James Harden right there. Derrick Rose right there. Every last one of them. Couldn't even look. So when somebody asks me, BJ, why is Paul George's mentality not to go to the rim as much? I don't know. Maybe because his fucking leg almost ripped apart. So ask yourself, would you continuously do the same shit over and over after having an experience like that? I don't understand people, common sense, who actually watch the damn game and watch the injury and just sit back and act like they don't know what happened. I just showed you prime footage of Paul George before the injury, what type of player he was. Everybody on Team USA, they had to literally stop the game and wheel his ass out off the court. Let me tell you something. When you get stretched off the court, you're talking about a season-ending, maybe a career-ending injury. Stop asking me dumb questions. To expect somebody to keep doing the same thing over and over when he shouldn't even be playing basketball is dumb as hell. But you know some, he didn't stop playing. He actually came back even better, regardless whether you want to believe it or not. And I'm gonna end it here. After that injury happened, let me turn this shit off. After the injury happened, you got Klay Thompson like he about to cry. After that injury happened, he actually resurged his game. Right? He still resurged his game. In OKC, he was a MVP candidate. Right? He came back stronger than ever. With the Clippers, he changed his game around. Now that you see Paul George's game now, it ain't so much, he going to the basket. Now it's more, being more strategic, shooting more pull-up shots, shooting more three-point shots, shooting more mid-range shots, back to the basket a little bit more. He ain't just this guy just going out there just trying to dunk on anybody. He'll still catch a body here and there, but he's a little bit more calculative. He's more, able to, decipher and play a little bit more cerebral, not just be, when you're younger, and it's not just him. Anybody who's younger, they feel like they can just, do whatever. Well, as you get older, you're going to be a little bit more calculative on your game. So he changed his game up. He's still having the same amount of points he did in Indiana, still being productive, but even a little bit more better. So you got to give him credit for adjusting his game. Right? But, even though he got over that injury against whatchamacallit, against the in the US Olympic injury, he had to go through the same thing against, the OKC Thunder against Lou Dort with his dirty ass, where he actually purposely stuck his leg out, and then he goes down with the same type of injury before. Understand something. It's a mental thing for me more than a physical. The same thing with Kawhi Leonard. He keeps getting hurt, and how he mentally, you don't think that mentally messes with his mind? Where he's like, should I keep playing, or should I, take some time off? But this just happened with him last season, or this happened in 2023. I get idiots asking me, why are you playing the 2023 playoffs, BJ? Was he scared? Okay. Well, first off, this is the first time he's ever even sat out the playoffs after an injury. Every other injury he's had, he comes back. The injuries that he had with the Sixers this year, he's coming back early. The injury he had in 2022, when he tore his UCL elbow, he came back for the play-in. We would have made the playoffs that year had he not got sick against the New Orleans Pelicans. He comes back every single time he gets hurt. This is the one time he chooses not to come back. And people got the nerve to ask, is it because he was scared of the Suns, or why did he not come back? First off, the Suns are a team he owns. Do you understand the player that's on the other side on the Suns that he salivates, he plays every single time? That light-skinned Devin Booker dude. You think he's scared of the Suns? So you can scratch that narrative out. He told you what the problem was. If I'm not myself, why am I on the floor for? The same thing people say about Kawhi Leonard. If he's not 100%, he's not getting out there. But Lou Dort, with his dirty ass, stuck his foot out on purpose, and his leg buckles right here. Another injury, which is not as bad as the one against in the Olympics, but it's still a hyperextension. And this is an injury he's familiar with. And he keeps playing. He came back. He comes back every time he gets hurt outside of this one. Did I want him to play the next against the Suns? Yeah, I did. But I understood that, look, I'd rather him take care of his knee or his leg before even trying to put himself out there. But you can't be mentally weak and come back from injuries like that. I'm going to say it again. You can't be mentally weak when you come back from injuries like this. But see, some of y'all don't understand it because y'all don't do shit. Y'all not athletes. Y'all don't work out. You sit on you sit in your mama's basement and eat snacks and fruit snacks all damn day and talk shit on the internet. You clowns with no avatars that keep coming on to my channel, type in the chat room. Gonna tell a world-class athlete how he should be preparing his body. Another little piece of advice. You can't be out of shape and you play both ways of the basketball. It's impossible. All the greats that play both ways at a high level, you can't be out of shape. Why do I say that? Because there's this notion narrative again that Paul George doesn't take basketball seriously. He should just cancel his podcast. I get so annoyed with that because those are the same people that can't seem to stop watching. If you don't like somebody, what they're doing, why do you continuously watch? That is called a grade A hater. You think these players are supposed to sit back and just play basketball 24/7 and stay in a dark room and just sit there with a basketball right next to them? That's not how basketball players live. They have a life outside of basketball as well. I don't give a damn what you do outside of basketball, outside the job. Just like your personal job, you don't care what you do outside of your job. The boss does not care. The Sixers don't care that he has his own podcast. That's always able to keep doing it. If your employer doesn't have a problem with it and they're not taking, telling him to turn it off, then that's obviously telling you that there's nothing that he's doing that's wrong. I'd rather him be on having his own podcast than him doing some stupid shit and not coming into, the season in shape. As long as you clock in and clock in out for your job, show up for practices, meetings, games, film sessions, weight room sessions, you can do whatever the hell you want to do outside of basketball here. I don't give a damn what else you do. That is your personal business. Oh, he needs to cancel his podcast, BJ. He ain't focused. The dumbass casual fan, bro. I will never understand. But that concludes this narrative. I hope y'all enjoyed it. We'll be back live again here soon. But I will be probably doing the one on James Harden. Because regardless, like I said, man, I have people, players I like on, the league, but that has nothing to do with how I choose to talk about them. I choose to be as fair and logical with these guys as possible because I know the respect factor as a player is there. That's always going to be there. So that's all I want to say about that. Until next time, pull up a seat, pull up a chair, pull up. Peace. Out here like swim web.